On today's show, the Han Solo poster was stolen. Get the funk out. Also, Perri Nemiroff will interview Anna Paquin, and Mary Poppins returns to shove sugar down more kids' throats. Very exciting movie talk starts right now. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Movie Talk alongside the squeaky to my Lenny, John Rocha, Jay Washington, and classy Clarke Wolfe. I am Mark Ellis, and as I mentioned, our top story today comes from the fine folks at The Hollywood Reporter who have announced that Disney is investigating claims by a French artist named Hakim Bahous, a name I just butchered, that he had his artwork stolen and was used on the Han Solo posters that have been recently shown around the internet and in movie theaters nationwide. Now, Disney has claimed that they are investigating exactly what happened, that they used an outside vendor to do these posters. The big question is, does this man have a claim against Disney? It looks like he does. I mean, you look at these posters. You didn't even change the color scheme, guys. And look, I'll say what I said last week when I saw these posters. I think the posters are awesome. And now I will say that French artwork is awesome. I want to hear whatever music is coming out of those albums. That looks fantastic. And it was clearly ripped off. This is not a case that I take lightly. I don't like accusations of stealing. Jay Washington, you and I have been in the stand-up game a long time. Yep. The cardinal rule that you cannot commit as a comic lest you get the reputation as a joke thief is stealing other people's material. Yep. Now, we also know that you hear claims from time to time in the community of stand-up that, oh, this guy took my joke, this guy took my joke. Well, let's look at it side by side. Was it a joke thief or was it a premise thief? Yep. Because a lot of people have the same premises. What's the punchline? The punchline on these posters is telling me these were lifted.
These are the exact, like you said, the color scheme is still the same. That's the design of the whole, okay, we're going to do the like phase through and you see it. That would be one thing. The exact color scheme for each one is ridiculously kept. Whoever they hired, whether it be an inside or outside artist, as they say, was that lazy and was like, nobody would notice this. They thought nobody would notice. And I don't know how you think when you're doing something for a big company such as Disney that this doesn't spread around and somebody's like, hey, have you seen this? This looks like it takes nothing for somebody to send a screenshot to somebody like, doesn't this look like this? And then that screenshot goes around and it goes around and eventually it gets to the originator who created the originals. And now you have what you have. Like you said, in comedy, you do the side-by-side comparisons. You say, okay, is it a premise? Is it a whole joke? You do the side-by-sides these. You're like, oh, this is the exact same thing.
You couldn't even move the character from the right side of the poster to the left side of the poster?
You did everything the same. Literally, only thing you changed was the words. What was the first one? You changed electric funk or whatever it is to funk to solo. Yeah. Like that was just going to make a big difference.
I would go see the movie Funk, a Han Solo story. You know, I think the Funk poster would have been great for him or Chewie or Lando or anybody, but Clarke Wolfe, this seems pretty egregious, right? Am I missing something?
No. You're not. I feel like when Disney says we're investigating, how is that investigation not like, all right, well, it seems like we have our answer, and our investigation has said that, yes, these were stolen.
This is totally a play by Disney to get in front of this and say, this is like when a college basketball scandal happens, and Louisville's like, don't worry, NCAA, we're going to investigate Rick Pitino. We're going to take this upon ourselves to put the law into our own hands because they want to separate themselves. They want to get as far away from this as possible, or at least look like they're going to come out on the right side.
Yeah, and I think all jokes aside, what they're probably investigating is who was the one who turned this in, because that person probably is the one who stole it. And of course, the executives aren't, they're not. The people who are like saying, okay, go, even if it is by committee, which these things are, and the fact that nobody caught it or nobody caught wind of it is a little weird. But whoever put this forward within the department is going to be in really big trouble.
Yeah, Rocha, who do you really pin this on? Because it looks to all of us like this was lifted. Yep. So who actually takes the blame besides the person who stole it initially at Disney? Is it the head of a department? Is it somebody who's supposed to vet these kind of things? Where does the blame lie for you?
I think it certainly lies on only the person who submitted it. I don't think you could expect his boss to know all the different artists and all the different things that have been out there, especially something a French artist said none of us had really heard of. And so this would be interesting to see how far they're going to go go with this because Disney should not be taking a majority of the blame on this at all. They're investigating. They're going to make the decision. But the thing is, this is through BLT Communications, through BLT Tomato. They have a number of Hollywood posters that they've done. They currently have the Mary Poppins Returns one going on. They had Blade Runner 2049, Thor Ragnarok. They even had Greatest Showman, which breaks my heart. They had all these great posters. So they definitely have a foothold in Hollywood doing movie posters. So this could be just an anomaly. They get it taken care of. And like Clarke said, they said Disney going to look into it. But what's interesting is this artist took down the post that was public on Facebook.
Yeah, probably because he got a call from his Jackie Childs lawyer that's like, hey, we have a case here. Let's go about this the proper way. In that post that you mentioned, he said, I am flattered that the quality of my work is recognized, but it is still pure and simple forgery. He has not been asked for his permission. I wish to be credited and paid for this work that I did originally for Sony. And then a spokesperson for Disney responded to that by saying that the posters were created by an outside vendor, and it's currently something that we are looking into. But you could have this happen with any situation, and it's happened to Disney before. It's happened to Pixar before, where people will say, hey, that story, it sounds an awful lot like this Japanese animation that I saw 10 years ago. So this is a blatant example because you can just side by side it. You can't say that, well, all stories kind of have the same moral or the same themes running through them. This is clear.
Yeah, and what's also unfortunate here, Mark, is people were starting to hear rumors that Solo is actually a good movie. We were starting to hear this idea. A lot of people liked the trailer. Some people didn't. So they were just climbing out of all this quagmire of stuff that they were into with making the director change. The idea that people don't like Alden Ehrecht. A lot of Star Wars fans didn't even want a Solo. You were one of those ones that's vocal that you did not want a Solo Star Wars. Just when they're starting to climb out of this, another controversy hits this production. So to me, it's like a snake-bitten film. And if it survives all this and comes out and makes money and does well, it'll be doing it against a huge odds. So it's an unfortunate situation for this whole production.
Yeah, in response to this, Disney has moved up the release of Avengers another week to give Han Solo that much more breathing room. Jay Washington, Rocha brings up a great point, though, and I'd like to hear you guys discuss it, is what does this do to Han Solo? Is this a stink that's just going to be in our bubble, or will it transfer over and it's going to be another hit to this movie?
I think the only way it'll be a stink is if the numbers aren't what they should be for Solo. So let's say these box office numbers opening weekend are lower than expected. Then everybody's going to bring up, well, see, this happened, that happened, this happened. Then they had the poster. It's going to be a cumulative thing. They're going to bring all this up. Now, if it does become successful, there still will be people who will be like, well, they stole this and they did that. So you're not going to appease everybody no matter what. I just think this film has so much a blob of everything behind it, good and bad. We just have to wait till it's released because there's so much, again, all the behind the scenes stuff. Again, the directors, the story changes, the reshoots, everything, posters, and now all this Avengers getting pushed up to give it some breathing room. All of these things, a lot of people do and don't want the film. There's so much. So you can't, it's like, look, this just has to come out at this point.
I think this is going to end up being a blip on the radar for a number of reasons, Clarke. One of which is that Disney, apparently their pockets are pretty deep. So they're going to be able to pay this artist, and they're going to be able to make this thing go away pretty quickly. And it's also, let's be honest, it's the movie poster. Yes, it's material that you use to sell the movie. It's not the movie itself. Now, if the movie comes out and Hakeem Bahous is like, hey, that's exactly the plot of my jazz fusion movie that I made 2 years ago, then we're going to have a real issue on our hands. This is a poster. Disney can hire they can hire Rocha to go in there right now and say, like, oh, I'm going to drop a new Han Solo poster, and I'm sure you would do.
I would, absolutely.
Great. And I think that we're going to be okay with this. This is not a huge deal in the grand landscape of whether the Han Solo movie is going to be successful, in my opinion. Do you see it differently?
No, I don't. I agree with you. I think at the end of the day, no one outside of nerds like us are gonna care.
Yeah, but and I don't know if Disney ends up releasing the name of the person who actually did the posters. Because there's certain famous people that have done the artwork. Like everybody knows the name Drew Struzan, and we know certain people that have done posters before. But that is really that's a tough thing. When I first read this story and didn't see the posters, my initial thought was, well, a lot of posters kind of look alike, and then you see this, and it's like, whew.
Oh, okay.
There's a famous story that George Harrison and his song "My Sweet Lord," when he was solo after the Beatles, was sued because somebody else said that their song sounds exactly like that. You know what the judge awarded that band? $1. He listened to the two and he's like, here's your dollar, go away. This is going to cost Disney a lot more than $1.
Remember Queen's Under Pressure and Vanilla Ice when everybody was saying it was the exact same song and Vanilla Ice was like, no, it has that ting, 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 just the extra little thing. And everybody was like, nah, bro.
Mine goes ding, 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 ding.
He was like, ting, 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 and everybody was like, nah.
Yeah, this is like beyond sampling. This is like blatant ripoff. There's no sampling
This is
going
like,
on.
all right,
The whole song is
this is one of those, hey, Google, how do I make this over again?
I got a deadline. I got to do this real quick. Yeah.
Well, the deadline for Rampage has been moved up a week. That's right, stoners. It is no longer 420. Sorry, Clarke Wolfe. I know you were really excited to take some tokes off your Chiba that you want to puff on 420. Now Rampage is going to open on April 13th. This is obviously a move to counter what Disney just did last week, moving up the release of Infinity War to April 27th. The real impact that this could have is not on Infinity War and it's not on Rampage. It might be on Ready Player One. That is the blockbuster movie that comes out at the end of March. So now it's got a much shorter window to make all of its money, or at least be number one at the box office. Rocha, do you see this as being a bigger impact on Rampage or on Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One?
No, on Ready Player One, I think it's a chock. It's a chock full of thing. You've got Tomb Raider 2 weeks before Ready Player One, then Ready Player One, then Rampage, then Avengers Infinity War. So Ready Player One is getting smashed into this middle with all these films around it. And already there are people saying that didn't like the trailer that much, that it doesn't make them feel like people. There are other people who love the trailer, but I'm hearing a lot of people online who don't like the trailer, think it looks bad, don't get the references, all those kinds of things that are happening. So for me, it's an interesting place for it to be because Tomb Raider people have been looking forward to it. I'm hearing mixed things about that now, but people are definitely, and Rampage, what The Rock just did coming out of Jumanji, that can't be denied. So he is on an upward trajectory again with this. So I think it's going to smash Ready Player. I think Ready Player One is going to underperform absolutely because all these films are people are looking more forward to these films than they are Ready Player One.
I think you're getting way too heated about this because if you are opening a movie in March or April, that's practically the summer season already. And what I mean by that is that you have there's always another train coming in the summer. There's always another movie that is coming out the next week. So the fact that Ready Player One has a 2-week window, I think is more than enough for it to do well, for it to do whatever it's going to do. 2 weeks being number one at the box office gives you all the time in the world to have the critical praise if your movie deserves that, to have people tell their friends, hey, you need to go check this thing out in the theater. 2 weeks is plenty time for Ready Player One to do its money, right, Jay?
Yeah, but again, all these other movies that are coming right behind it, it's 2 weeks and then that's it. Like, for instance, Black Panther is still making money. Let's just use that. And granted, there are no other films behind it that really are making a strong push. But when you're talking about Ready Player One, everybody was like, oh, this is going to be a big movie, big money generator. Then you get Tomb Raider is right before it, like you said.
2 weeks before.
So you got Tomb Raider before, then you had Ready Player One. Then you were like, oh, I got a bit of breathing room until Rampage. Then you were like, oh, if you're Rampage, you have a bit of breathing room until Infinity War. Now everything goes back. That breathing room, that window gets shorter. You're only going to make 2 weeks worth of money because, again, once Rampage comes, like Rocha said, after Jumanji, people are running to see another Rock film. This trailer has everybody like, I'm going to see it. 420, I was with Clarke, like, yo, there's this lemongrass when I need to go watch this film. And
it's totally legal out here, guys. I don't know where you live.
I don't know where you live.
Where it's A-okay.
Cookies and cream. And then it was like, you had Rampage, and then you knew Infinity War, which was going to just shut down damn near everything, even Deadpool. It was going to make money, but not like, following up Infinity War. I think it hurts Ready Player One to make the money it could. Like, this movie should have made almost a month's worth of money. It hurts it.
I think the movie that's in real danger here, Clarke, and I'd love for your take on this too, is Pacific Rim Uprising. That's the movie that comes out March 23rd. The first Pacific Rim that had a lot of hype around it, did not do that well opening weekend at the box office. I think it made about $45 million domestically. This new movie, I know it's got John Boyega. I love me some John Boyega. I've attended a wedding with Scott Eastwood. I'm rooting for the movie. I don't think it's going to do that well, particularly because it opens the week after Tomb Raider and the week before Ready Player One. And this is the closest to Rampage you're going to see on screen. Giant robots fighting monsters versus monsters fighting each other with The Rock involved. I think Rampage has a much better chance for success than Pacific Rim Uprising.
Well, yes. I think that this is a really crowded period of time. And, as you said earlier, I agree. I think summer movie season really starts in February now, to be honest with you. But yeah, I was just going over the release dates, and truly, I do think that April 20th was the best date for Rampage, just because of what else is coming out that weekend. And you're right. Now we are getting into those windows where everything is a little crammed. I am pulling for Pacific Rim Uprising. I haven't seen it yet. I love the first movie. I think the first one was super fun. But keep in mind, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm pretty sure I'm not, Pacific Rim Uprising the first Pacific Rim movie did come out in the summer. It was a summer movie release, which meant obviously a much stiffer competition. Now, because that had to have been 2013, because I was still doing movie talk or AMC movie talk at the time. So what a difference 5 years makes, right? Because
you think, we're going to have this plum marsh landing spot. Nobody's going to mess with us except for a giant video game movie and a giant video game movie.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot happening. And I agree with Rocha. I think that Ready Player One is also in trouble, because I think that it's just not, there doesn't feel like there's heat on it and buzz on it. So yeah, but that being said, I'm not entirely sure that Rampage is going to be the smash that maybe we're all anticipating that it is. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to be successful. I do think it is, especially on its Friday the 13th opening day. There's not a whole lot else that can really compete with The Rock and his star power. But I think it's going to be an interesting test to see if a movie like this, which looks like a big, fun popcorn movie starring The Rock, can land in this opening weekend in the midst of all of these other fun action adventure films, a lot of them based on pre-existing properties also, and see if it lands.
I think this is the test for The Rock. I think he's going to pass it, because if you say, hey, we think you're the biggest movie star in the world right now, this is what's going to prove it. It's going to be right here. Now, Jumanji was a great litmus test, came out around Christmas, had to go up against The Last Jedi for a number of weekends. You had The Rock, clearly the biggest star in that movie, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, Karen Gillan, they're all great. Even the name Jumanji is nice. The Rock is the reason why that movie kept doing huge business week after week after week. And then the critical word of mouth, everybody saying, hey, this is a really fun movie. You could have the same thing with Rampage. And don't worry, everybody who wants to enjoy your time in the theater on April 20th, that magical of days, because Super Troopers 2 comes out. And is there a better movie to go into the theater maybe in a little bit of an altered state than that? Rocha, do you think Rampage is going to sell itself just on the fact that The Rock is the king of the box office right now? Or do you agree with Clarke that it could be in trouble?
No, I absolutely think it will be. I think it's absolutely going to sell on The Rock. And you bring up great points, though, about Jumanji. Like, it wasn't just The Rock. It was Jack Black, who has his own audience, Kevin Hart, who has his own audience, and Karen Gillan, to a degree, has her own audience as well. So those are great comedic supporting actors that lifted The Rock up as well. And Dwayne really had to bring it and he really matched everything they did, because they're all established comedy people in their own rights. And so to throw The Rock in that mix, he had to really kind of hang. And when I interviewed him, he talked about that off our interview. He said it was those people really helping him step up to the plate comedically that really got him to the place to make this movie great. He doesn't quite have that with Rampage. We see that a little bit with Jeffrey Dean Morgan doing his Negan thing, and we see the other actors that are in this with Malin Ackerman. They're not really that well known in that kind of way. So it'll be interesting to see if this ends up being this. But I do think he will, because it looks like a fun film. He looks like he's got the right vibe, and the same kind of vibe of Jumanji, kind of playful but still stakes and all these things happening. So I look forward to it. Plus, it's the summer, and that's when you want to see stuff blowing up and creatures and everything like that. And it may be one of the first video game movies that actually does great work. So I think he's got enough to push it over the edge to make its money. Now, if the reviews come out and it's terrible, then it's going to sink like a stone.
I mean, look, yes, it's got Malin Ackerman. She's great. It's got Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He's good on Walking Dead. It's got a giant gorilla in it. It's got a giant wolf in it. It's got a giant crocodile in it. That's what's selling the movie, just under The Rock. He's still the biggest star.
But you've got, again, only 2 weeks of that. Again, we bring up Jumanji and The Last Jedi. 2 weeks after that, one of the most highly anticipated movies in years comes out, where you have a litany of stars. You have every comic book hero from the Marvel universe converging into one film that is already tracking to do over $200 million.
Yeah, but we saw in Jumanji, he fought off The Last Jedi.
I understand that. But Last Jedi, as we all know, was divided.
Right, yes,
It was also much darker. Like, I feel like if you're at Christmas time, you want to go see your Last Showmans, or Greatest Showmans. You want to go see these light, fun.
point.
So,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that it was a great count. Yes, Star Wars is huge. But those movies are part of a franchise. You have to, it's the pressure of the legacy for the audience, meaning like the audience showing up to a Star Wars movie knows they're gonna have to pay attention. Okay, what happened in the last movie? What do I need to know? Like, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas Jumanji, you show up, you turn, you laugh for 90 minutes and then you leave. So I do think that was helpful for it to be so big at Christmas time.
You know what? All this talk of giant monsters fighting each other just makes me want to go fly a kite. Mary Poppins is back, everybody. Yes, Mary Poppins has returned. My most anticipated movie of the year. Got its first teaser trailer, according to the Oscars, and then we also have it online now. It's Rob Marshall's sequel to the 1964 classic called Mary Poppins Returns, starring Emily Blunt. We also, a little bit later on the show, we're going to talk about the Winnie the Pooh, the Christopher Robin trailer that just dropped. But for Mary Poppins, look, I've said on the show, Clark, I just don't care about this movie at all. I think she's the world's maybe top 10 best babysitter. Like, I put Elizabeth Shue in Adventures in Babysitting above her. I would even put, on the right day when she's not getting killed, Drew Barrymore in Scream. Pretty good babysitter, potentially. There's a lot of good babysitters. The one in When a Stranger Calls Back, she really had some guts to her. Mary Poppins is a decent babysitter, okay? But when I saw this trailer and when I saw the footage they showed us at D23, I kind of did feel the magic. And I hate admitting it, but I did feel a little bit of the magic. It was pretty cool to see Lin-Manuel Miranda, to see the kite, see what a gray day this was. It was such a gray day. This poor little bastard trying to fly a kite. Nobody's helping him out. It's not a windy day. It's a storm. You don't fly kites in storm unless you're trying to discover electricity. He's doing it, and then all of a sudden, you just see this figure coming down, and I thought it was kind of cool. How do you feel?
Well, it's funny because I was actually the one that was very excited about this. And now that I've seen this teaser, I'm kind of like,
You've taken.
We've switched places. This is like a Freaky Friday situation.
I'm
here.
Clarke Wolfe.
Yes.
Check out my podcast, Sending the Wolf.
Yay, with Lynn Shay today. No, I feel got the plug in. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I didn't see any. I was not at D23. I was with John Schnepp at Z49 down the street. So, but I haven't seen any extended footage, and I do love Emily Blunt. And I think she's very talented. But I love Mary Poppins so much. I really and truly do. This movie is one of my top 20 movies of all time, probably favorites. I love Mary Poppins. And so I was excited to hear that she was going to be taking on the role. I was fine with a new story. That's great. But the references, I hate these stupid callbacks. We get it. It's Mary Poppins. You don't have to show me the kite from Jane and Michael Banks that is 50 years old and I magically have it when they're grown-ups.
I need to see the kite.
But why?
Because I want to know it's Mary Poppins.
I just want to
You don't recognize Mary Poppins?
I want to see the kite. I want to see the umbrella. I want to see the Banks' kid. I want to see this stuff. This is part of my childhood too, damn it. I'll admit it. I wasn't the biggest Mary Poppins fan of this movie, but now going against Clarke Wolfe, or maybe embodying Clarke Wolfe, I am so excited about Mary Poppins.
You are the one defending this now. So if only we could have known.
I am totally in. Now, Rocha,
Yes.
You and Jay have had a good time watching us talk about this, so now I want to watch you guys go at it. Who loves Mary Poppins? Who can't stand Mary Poppins anymore?
I love Mary Poppins. I think she's fantastic because it was one of those unusual Disney films that wasn't all just like, hey, it's all sweet and nice. Like there was a little more of an edge to her, a little more of a darkness to her, and what she was bringing, her confident, this was a confident, cocky Julie Andrews, and I love that. It was a color you didn't normally see on her, so it was great to see that with Mary Poppins. I think Emily Blunt absolutely captures that in the small amount of time they give her in this trailer, especially when she's looking in the mirror and says what she says, and it's a daunting role to take on. But Emily Blunt is up to the task to do it, in my opinion. And I actually like this trailer. You know why? Because she's gone. She's been gone. That's why it's dreary. That's why it's gray. And it's been a while. And so she's going to bring back the joy and the lightness and the brightness back into their lives. Lin-Manuel Miranda, it's weird you put him in and don't have him sing or say anything. That was a little weird for me.
It's a tease. No, it's a teaser trailer.
You've had your time.
Did you see Luke Skywalker light up a lightsaber? No, you barely hear the guy. Like, it's a teaser trailer.
I didn't mind the kite thing, and I will push back a little bit on Clarke because of there is a new generation, and it's been 50 years, like you said. So the kids have to get back into the joy of it and hear the same tones and all those kinds of things, because it is supposed to bring you back to that time. This is essentially a sequel, and I think the kids are grown now, and so she's coming back to kind of do this kind of thing. So I didn't mind. I thought it was a nice teaser trailer. Her coming out of the sky was great, and you can't complain about flying a kite. It's London. It's always raining in London. If you couldn't fly a kite when it wasn't, then you'd never fly a kite. So I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Raining in London.
Yeah, it is.
They have some Sundays.
British people say that, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, all right. I do want to just, first of all, like when I saw the teaser, I was like, this is a storm coming. That is not a regular wind. Okay, this is a torrential storm. The only thing I care of is if she sings Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
I don't think she will sing it.
She needs to sing the song.
What?
If you're going to be yes, with a new generation.
Clarke will flip out if they do
I don't
that
care
happens.
if Clarke flips out. Okay, I will continue to eat my popcorn.
They will never have her sing
Right.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Or a spoonful of sugar.
Maybe
Yeah.
live on the Oscars next year. Maybe they'll shoot a viral
Viral video
video
for
where
it.
they do it, but that will
But that's
never
all-
be in the
I
movie.
just say that because that's really some of the things for me that are memorable about Mary Poppins. Again, it's been so long, and yet 50 years, the story. Do you want to? Is it necessary to bring this back?
Yeah.
That's the biggest question. Is it necessary?
That was my question when I first heard that they were doing this.
Right.
And I was like,
It's
we
like,
don't
is this
need
necessary?
Mary Poppins back. I just pop in the first one and show it to kids. Then we grow up and we don't care about it anymore. But again, I'm not lining up to see this movie because I can't wait to see Mary Poppins again. I'm just saying that based on the trailer I was shown, I was like, that's a cool way to tug on our heartstrings a little bit, to appeal to our nostalgic sensibilities.
I agree.
If we're not going to get Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, do we get Let's Go Fly a Kite? Is that the
Do we get any of the songs?
No, I'm actually curious about
Yeah.
this from a huge Mary Poppins fan. What songs should be in the movie to remind us that this is Mary Poppins, and what songs are just kind of sacred canon that we put away forever?
Well, aside from my fandom of Mary Poppins, which I didn't realize was so strong until this very moment, I would say that your selling point here is actually Lin-Manuel. So him writing music for Mary Poppins is what. So you get what I mean? From an objective standpoint, them kind of dressing him like Bert, but he's not Bert,
Right.
and showing the kite, and remember the kite? Yeah, I kind of remember the kite. And she looks like she is Mary Poppins. She's dressed similarly. I think that's most. Those are the broad strokes of throwback you're going to get, but everything else, I think they're going to be like, no, the guy from Hamilton, you know how everyone loves Hamilton? He wrote all our music. Come watch it. You know what I mean? I think that's where they're
Just
going
no
to go.
slam poetry stuff. Just none of that crap. Please, God.
But
Real
to your
music.
point, I do think maybe there is a chance that maybe there'll be like a quick reprise, or let's go fly a kite, since they're focusing on the kite so much in the trailer. Maybe, but I don't think like Supercalifragilistic. I don't think Spoonful of Sugar. Maybe though. Maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like that would be weird.
I think it'd be great to shoehorn them into an original song. I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of artists do that. I listen to a lot of classic rock, and they ain't cranking out a whole lot of new hits, but when they do, sometimes they will reference their
Right.
old music. I think that's cool when they do that, as opposed to just like, here's our remastered for the 80th time version of Don't Stop Believing. Just it's fun to reference your past a little bit, but you don't have to just sing the same song again. If Mary Poppins has been doing nothing but sitting on a cloud for 50 years, you have some free time to write some new tune. Everybody, when they go to jail, what do? They write poems.
What?
Why? Because they're bored. She's been sitting on a cloud for the last 50 years. Be an artist, be true to yourself, and write some new tunes.
Why is jail the first thing you referenced since it was 50 years? Like somebody could just be on an island, just chilling.
Being
He's
on
like,
a cloud is fun. It's going to be better for your back than a prison cell, but eventually you're stuck on that cloud.
I just want to know where you got the data for this. I
I do my research before this show. Mark Fernandez said on the town hall yesterday. Mark comes in and he prepares. Kind of. We got a new Terminator production date. That's right, guys. There's going to be a new Terminator movie. Don't worry. Arnold Schwarzenegger's in it. Don't worry. James Cameron is overseeing production, and Tim Miller from Deadpool is set to direct. And we have our production start date of this very summer. It's going to start in June, and it's going to go to the middle of October. This is from Arnold Schwarzenegger's own mouth. That's when they're going to start. He's going to come back as a D800 model, and it's great. With Tim Miller as the director and Jim Cameron is the kind of supervisor of the whole thing. This according to the man, the myth, the legend, Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. John Rocha.
Yeah.
Do we need Arnold Schwarzenegger coming back in this new movie? And I will remind you and everybody else who's watching right now that this movie is set to take place right after Terminator 2. I like that we're retconning everything else. It's going to pick up after Terminator 2. The ending of Terminator 2. I don't know where we bring Arnold's character back unless it's a new T-800.
Yeah, and are they going to do the de-aging thing? Is that what they're going to do here with him and with Linda Hamilton? Because if it's picking up where he left off, who's going to be John Connor? All those kinds of things. You're asking me, do I need him back? No. I wish he would walk away from this franchise all over again. Again. And I wish James Cameron would stop. I mean, you want to talk about playing your greatest hits. He's doing Avatar again. He's doing Terminator again. I love Tim Miller. And I'm happy that he's employed and doing work. But this, I don't need Schwarzenegger anywhere near this. And they always bring him back, and the films never succeed except for T2. And so to me, it's frustrating to have to go through this again. You want to start over? Then start over. Start the F over and cast all new people, start all over again and do this thing. Because the Halloween thing makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. Jamie Lee Curtis, then I got de-age her. She is who she is. Michael Myers is coming back. They're bringing back the old guy who played him. That makes sense. That gets me excited. John Carpenter's doing the music. That gets me excited. But we've seen numerous attempts at doing this Terminator thing, bringing back Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's just horrible. And I wish we could just all walk away from this and start all over again because I don't, and I love Arnold. I saw all his films post-governorship. Went, Sabotage, all of it, in the theater, paid good money. But I still don't want to see him do this kind of stuff.
You're heated. Your glasses are fogging up. I understand.
This is life,
let me assuage some of your pain here because yes, it is a sequel to Terminator 2.
Yeah.
In the same way that The Force Awakens is a sequel to Return of the Jedi. So
Sure.
I don't know that we need the de-aging techniques because Sarah Connor is going to be back. Linda Hamilton's going to play her as this more grizzled veteran warrior. So just because it takes place after T2 doesn't mean it picks up like a year later. Like in the same way that we saw Han Solo back as this very seasoned smuggler who's had a lot more life on him than the last time we saw him. That's the Sarah Connor you're going to get. Rocha does bring up a great question, though, Clark. Do you have to do the de-aging technology with Arnold, or do you think that we also get a grizzled, more seasoned, just different version of the T-800?
At this point, this is just such gobbledygook. In Terminator Genesis or whatever it was called.
It's pronounced Jenny Smith.
Jenny Smith, which I will be completely honest with you, I did not all caps hate. I didn't like it, love it, but I didn't think it was that bad either. They recreate that opening scene from the Terminator, and it looked weird. You guys know how I feel about this. I don't like it. My eye can still see it, and it's always just
the
a little
de-aging
off.
stuff?
Yeah. And so or reanimating dead people is like it's not it doesn't look right to me. So I hope that they don't do that. I hope that they allow and also look, it wasn't that we just talked about this on Top 10 plugs.
Yeah.
No, but wasn't that the whole the arc of T2 was like, who is more of the robot? Who is more of the machine? Is it Sarah or is it, the actual Terminator? And so I think there's potential for maybe a mirror situation of both of them having aged and both of them kind of having that, like that's their character arc essentially.
And Connor is almost 50 years old if you're doing 36 years later from T2.
Right.
Connor, hey mom, what are you making, Mom? What do I still need to teach you at 50 years old?
I'd like to have Sarah Connor.
Yo,
Just
I'm
like
fine
that
with that.
angry grandma with the broom on the porch, making sure there's no squirrels.
John, make sure them robots aren't there. But again, this was the last thing we saw of the T-800. Or T-1000, whichever one, T-800, whatever he was. But this is the last thing we saw going into fiery molten steel. The last thing we saw. How do you dig that up? How do you recreate that?
Well, you could just have another T-800. Is my question.
Does it have the same?
An older grizzled model?
And again, yes, you have the normal Arnold face, the face that looks like I've been through some things. Yeah. You have that T-800 that looks like it pays child support. You have that one, which.
But how many people are going to buy tickets to go see this? That's the thing. Schwarzenegger's not the draw anymore.
Again, we're a lot of films nowadays are banking on nostalgia. Yeah. This is one that because of what it's gone too far to try to bank on nostalgia. Way too far. I agree with you. If you're going to start over, all the way over.
That's a very fair argument to present, is that we're just relying on nostalgia for the new Terminator because we have Linda Hamilton back. I like that Linda Hamilton's back, but you can make that point as far as nostalgic purposes go. Obviously, with Arnold Schwarzenegger coming back, because he seems like that guy who just wants to keep reliving some of his past hits, and I totally get that. That's fair. You earned that. You can do that if that's what you want. For us, though, I think a reason to get excited is Tim Miller. Tim Miller directing this movie, I think, is one of the reasons why that could win somebody who's on the fence like Clarke over to say, hey, you know what? I do think that this is a cool vision if it is his vision and not Arnold telling him or James Cameron telling him what you need to do. You do have to trust other people with your properties eventually. James Cameron with Tim Miller, is that the right play?
I think it is the right play for this franchise because of his video game history. You know, before Deadpool, he was he is in the video game directing world, revolutionizing or working with technology on the forefront of motion capture and all those. I mean, that was Tim Miller's bag before he got Deadpool. And so when we're talking about a high-tech feature film like this, I do think that Tim Miller is the right person for the job. The only thing I would say is that with Genesis, you know, Arnold was in, and one of the biggest movies or TV stars, which, and you know, it's not TV, it's HBO, but Emilia Clarke, like, I mean, her taking on Sarah Connor should have been international draw, is what I'm saying. If we were going to rely on nostalgia, if we were going to rely on movie stars like Arnold, and it didn't quite click. So I'm just, I guess I just don't know if that same argument works in this context.
That's a very fair point to make, so we'll have to see how it all plays out. This summer is when they start production, hoping for a 2019 release date with the new Terminator movie. We are going to move on to our interview with Anna Paquin. Anna Paquin was in studio earlier this week. We were lucky enough to have our own Perri Nemiroff sit down with her and chat all of her latest. Here it is. There it is.
Anna Paquin is currently the second.
We'll have Anna Paquin, not live in studio.
Another thing about Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
The
another
youngest
thing.
Oscar winner in history thanks to her performance in the 1993 release The Piano, and since, she's maintained her household name status for a variety of projects, including the role of Rogue in the X-Men film franchise, and also starring in the wildly popular series True Blood on HBO. Now she's moved on to a new show called Bellevue, airing on WGN. She leads that series as Annie Ryder, a small-town detective investigating the disappearance of a local hockey star wrestling with gender identity. And not only is Paquin headlining the series, but she's also executive producing it as well.
Well, it's a really smartly written, very complex sort of intellectual mystery and drama that has a spectacularly flawed, amazing, tough female lead. And it was just really exciting. I was sort of hooked from page one of the first script.
What about the executive producer angle for you?
I have a production company with my husband, and I've done a little producing before that as well. And I kind of feel like if you're an actor who pays attention on set, sort of segueing into producing is quite natural, because it's really just knowing what goes into making a movie or a TV show happening, and knowing what all those ingredients are, and sort of wanting to be involved in the decision-making process. I mean, as a kid on a movie set, I mean, it sounds weird, but it's a little boring because you're surrounded by grown-ups, right? And you're the only child. So usually you gravitate towards, like, asking other people questions. Oh, what are you doing? How does that work? What's that? What, you know what I mean? Like, you end up, you know, it's your school. You end up learning a lot of stuff without even really realizing that you've, you know, basically been in film school for 20 years. I am always very protective, really of any of my co-stars, but very particularly my female co-stars. I've had enough experiences with women that are not kind to other women on set, especially when I was like younger and quite vulnerable, that has sort of made me develop quite firm policies about, like, you know, even if you're not really feeling particularly great anyway, if there's someone who's definitely feeling worse than you, it is your job to make sure she feels okay, because it makes such a difference if the person who's there every day actually bothers to be nice to you. Like, it's, you know, I've had the mean girl experience. So I kind of, and then young actors, I just feel unbelievably protective of, because I just know that every single thing that happens to them is going to in some way inform who they are as an adult. And, I've had good experiences and I've had bad experiences. So yeah, no, I take that very, very seriously. We do, we all kind of do like the live tweeting during the broadcast and stuff like that. And it seems to build a pretty strong and rabid fan base pretty quickly because
I love that that's become a thing.
But there's a sort of cliffhanger and a lack of satisfaction at the end of each episode because you still don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. And I just know as a viewer, that just makes me like, oh, come on, that's where you're cutting us off there? How do I wait till next week?
Another thing I really wanted to ask you about, having had such a robust experience in the film industry, TV, also having worked with Netflix now, what is your take on the whole rise of the streaming service?
Honestly, I think that anything that makes entertainment both accessible to more people, but also opens the doors for less proven creators to have a platform, I think is fantastic. I produce independent films. It's really hard. It's really, really hard telling stories that are not per se commercial, and that doesn't mean that they don't have an audience. It just means that it's hard to get people to want to write you a check to make them. And with the streaming platforms comes this amazing opportunity where they can give you just enough to get your thing done, and then word of mouth and online and the sort of social media of it all can do the rest. That you don't need the giant engine of a studio behind you anymore. Well, I mean, it's lovely, but you don't need it in order to get your content seen. And I think that's incredibly exciting as a filmmaker and TV creator, and as an actress, that I think that it's getting harder and harder to make smaller films and for new voices to be heard. And with that, I think you see the death of a sort of generation of creative voices.
Check out Bellevue on WGN America. Thank you so much, Anna Paquin, for stopping by in studio. While we were running that interview, we got another trailer from Disney. I don't know where they got the poster from, but we got a new trailer for the Christopher Robin movie, and it is Rocha.
Beautiful. Absolutely
Aw,
beautiful.
look at that.
I was so emotional watching that trailer, and great to see Jim Cummings coming back to do the voice of Winnie the Pooh. He's been doing him for a number of years now. It just, when he turns around and he says Christopher Robin, my heart just blew open. I almost started crying in front of these people. It looks beautiful. And once again, it's one of these things that's like Hook. It feels very reminiscent of Hook, where like he's lost his path from the magic of childhood that he had as Peter Pan. We see that in Hook. In Christopher Robin's lost that connection he had with Winnie the Pooh. He's in this situation where he has to fire people to keep the company alive, real life stuff. What is he going to do? And he has to go back and explore this and maybe come back and understand how to solve the situation in a different way than normal.
Oh, I did get a little bit of chill seeing Pooh back. And look, maybe I'm just easy to hook because I didn't want to see the Mary Poppins Returns. I didn't know if I cared about this. I liked Winnie the Pooh as a kid. Clarke Wolfe, I saw it, and I heard Winnie the Pooh's voice, and I was a little, now I want to eat some honey.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy for you guys. That's really sweet.
Oh my God, Clarke Wolfe.
I don't care about this at all. I don't get it. I don't understand. What is this? I'm sorry, you guys. I'm not into this.
Talk about sending the wolf.
Right. I mean,
Savage.
So the bear, yeah. There's no wolves as far as we know in the 100 Acre Wood. They would I'm a huge fan of all those animals. Tigger does not stand a chance against a wolf, nor does Piglet. He's probably the first one to go. Eeyore's going to be...
Eeyore's out of there.
Yeah.
Eeyore's out.
But my question is, did you have any attachment to Winnie the Pooh as a kid? It just wasn't in your proverbial wheelhouse? Because this trailer feels a lot... It's pretty much the same beats as the Mary Poppins trailer that we just saw. It's like, we're building up to this swell of nostalgia we're going to get at the end. Instead of a lady coming down from the clouds, you get a talking bear. I am more on Team Talking Bear than I am on flying nun from the clouds, but I will defer to you and say, if you didn't grow up with Winnie the Pooh, this might be a tough sell.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously knew what Winnie the Pooh was, but no, this isn't doing nothing for me.
Jay Washington, do you want to go back to 100 Acre Wood with me and Rocha?
I will take that journey. I'm sorry, Clark. I will admit, hearing Jim Cummings' voice was like when you hear Peter Cullen's voice as Optimus Prime. It's those voices you're synonymous with. Now, granted, Jim Cummings does sound way older, and Pooh does look a little scraggly. He looks like the Snuggles bear without being washed. But I also agree with you. It's like beat for beat the Mary Poppins trailer. So it's like it feels like we're seeing the same movie, just you replace one with the other. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, to see Tigger will be probably nice, but again, is it for the new generation? Is it for the older generation? That's the thing. We've been talking a lot about nostalgia today. What are these films for? Are they for this new generation that are going to be new moviegoers? Or is it for the older crowd that's like, oh, we haven't seen this in so long. Let's finally revisit this.
And what are we going to see? If you're an audience member, you see this trailer, it's okay, great. That tugged on the heartstrings of it. Rocha and I are combined 187 years old, so that's nice. Will this movie be good for kids? From what I saw, we're not getting animation in this, at least in this clip. So did they market the movie right? Because this looked a lot more like Paddington than it did Winnie the Pooh. Paddington, great movies, not that successful at the box office. If the sequel's any indication, it underperformed. Paddington doesn't have the name brand recognition that Winnie the Pooh does. I'm also very curious about, as Rocha brought up earlier, so Christopher Robin has this huge thing at work now because he's an adult and he's got to fire some people. Mary Poppins is going to come help these kids. What is Winnie the Pooh bringing to the equation here? Does he know who to fire?
Winnie's sorting papers in the office.
Oh, you're going to clean up
fire
your
resources. He's going to help Christopher Robin figure out how to do it in a humanitarian way and maybe not fire people, but find different ways to make everyone be happy. That's what Winnie the Pooh does.
Hey, we got to fire you, but don't worry, we're going to give you this bear as a parting gift. You got to feed him a lot of honey. It's going to eat you out of house and home.
You know what? I don't want to see it with you now. I don't want to go see this movie with you now. If you can do that the whole movie.
So the Christopher Robin movie comes out. We're a little divided on whether it is fair to use the nostalgia to just gut punch us, but I did dig both the Mary Poppins and the Christopher Robin shows. You got me, Disney. You got me. But let's sort out that Han Solo poster nonsense. Okay, that does it for us here on Collider Movie Talk. I want to remind you guys that we also have an interview that Christian Harloff conducted with Dave Filoni is up on the channel right now. And the movie Trivia Schmodown, it is live in Southern California at the El Portal Theater in March. It's going to be on March 15th. You can get tickets at fullscreenlive.com. Go there right now before they sell out. You're going to have this man, the Outlaw, battle JTE in our heavyweight. The main title, that's the huge bout. Then you also have the Wild Berries versus the Real Rejects. A lot of your favorite Schmodown luminaries are going to be there as well. Christian and I hosting. Make sure that you guys check that out. It's a whole lot of fun. And later on today, you're going to have a whole lot new content. Huh? You get news. It's going to be fun. See you tomorrow on Collider Movie Talk. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.